This is Arts Alive. I'm Lynda Phillippi, and my guest today is Catherine Garvin. Catherine's a playwright and a writer. She's got a fashion video series going, and welcome.
Yes, I'm so glad to be here, Linda. Thank you.
I'm really glad you could be with us today.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to hear about everything, but first, why don't we start with a little bit of background about you?
Well, since we're here in McMinnville, I should say that, I did spend many years here, starting with newbie school, kindergarten, first, second, and third, and then Yamhill County. And then I actually worked at the News Register for a couple of years.
Okay.
And then I was a music director at St. John's Catholic Church. And now I'm working on my third play.
Okay, so you want to talk a little bit. I see that you've got Fighter Girl, the poster up, but I know that you've done something recently too. So how did you get started writing plays?
Well, it was actually through songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
I belong to Portland Songwriters Association. And I was writing some songs and enjoying singing and writing songs, which I know some of the people in Yamhill County know me from singing at Cornerstone Cafe and around town.
Mm-hmm.
But pursued that singing and songwriting, and then met some other singer-songwriters. And because I have a theater background from New York City, I lived 8 years in New York City and was an actress and a singer and dancer. And they were kind of struggling with this kind of storyline with a song they had written called Fighter Girl. And so they asked me, for some ideas and whatnot. And so finally, it just came down that we had done a staged reading of one of the little storylines that we had put together, and it was just a complete failure. And so I said, if you really want me to write this story, we're just going to cut all these songs away from the play, and we're going to call this Fighter Girl, and we're going to take this song Fighter Girl and write a musical. So we did that, and it took about 2 years. And through a series of staged readings and whatnot, we finally did a workshop production, and I can hardly believe it's been almost 2 years.
Wow.
At the Fertile Ground Festival in Portland, called Fighter Girl the Musical, and that was done at the Portland Center for the Performing Arts in the Brunish Hall. And that was it. Just now I've written another one, 3 others.
Really? So once you got that going, that kind of primed the pump, I guess, and.
Exactly. It was a thrill to have the opportunity to connect with so many other singers, musicians, actors, actresses, the set crew, the people that have the venue. And I just really felt like this whole brand new adventure opened up in my life. And I was sitting in the audience and hearing the songs being sung by these singers and these words being acted out by the actors for this play. And I just felt like really where I belonged. And though I had been on stage acting other playwrights' words, it was really a thrill. And more than a thrill, it was like an awakening to a life career. So.
I think that's really interesting the way you say that. And, it seems like I can feel how excited you are about the interactive part of it. Unlike somebody, we'll say a novelist who writes a book which may or may not be turned into a major motion picture. But a play from the outset is designed to be shared with actors and theater people and then the audience as well. So, it's definitely a more collaborative process when you're writing a play. You have to be thinking, I'm sure, of how this person's going to look or move or stand or say this line. It's not just getting the words down on a page. It's also envisioning how it's going to come together on stage.
It's so incredible. I'm so happy that you said that because you are absolutely correct. It's a collaborative effort. Mm-hmm. And really, as a playwright, you almost have to get out of your own way because you have an idea of how the story is going to begin, but when the story sort of takes a hold of itself and starts to emerge like a sculpture or a painting or whatever, you have to step back and let that really come out. And it may not be what I call the first boost of the rocket ship. You know, the first boost of the rocket ship to get the project going actually separates from the rocket and heads back to Earth. And then what's going to happen is something that maybe even I don't even know. So you have to kind of really always be processing feedback from staged readings, from your audience, from your director, from the actors, and also stay true to your original concept, what you were trying to create, what was your tagline, what were you trying to express or talk about.
So when you were talking about Fighter Girl, and you said that was kind of like a workshop production, do you mean that you did actually do workshopping on this play? Like you got a bunch of people in the room, and as you were reading it, you were tweaking and making adjustments and things as you went along?
Okay, well, let me define a few terms in terms of the playwright world. So in terms of a play, when you have a script, which is, if it's a 2-act play, it's about 120 pages. And if there are songs, usually a song is 4 to 5 minutes. So if you have a song that takes up a whole page, you have to calculate the timing. So so it's 120 pages. Then the process of taking that script to the next step is what we'd call a staged reading, or a reading, just a cold reading with a cast, or if you or just have friends in your living room. If it's that, I did have for Emma Lily and also for this one set up readings where I had actors, real actors, not just friends, but people who have stage experience and they work as a professional actor, to come and read the lines, and then you review all that information with your director or yourself or your co-writer, and then you rewrite. You just start from scratch. You pull what's really okay. So you can have a series of stage readings like that. The next step, though, is before a full production is a workshop production. So a workshop production means that it's on a stage. All the songs and all the words are memorized. It is a casted production. Then you probably have some setting, like a set of some kind, not like a full elaborate set.
But something at least minimal.
Right, and then sound and lights, and you have an audience. So we had a paid audience, and we sold tickets. So it's a ticketed event. So it's a production in terms of getting a world premiere. And a world premiere would be then a publishable work. Now, a lot of plays and musicals go through hundreds. Like, for example, Spring Awakening, I met with he was touring with his music band through Portland, and I met with him when we were writing Fighter Girl. One of the music director and the musical person for Spring Awakening, and we were talking to him about that show, and it went through hundreds, not just 1, 2, 3, or 4, but hundreds of rewrites and workshop productions.
Really?
To really, really, really fine-tune a story to that level, you have to be willing to step back and really let that story emerge. And that's the exciting part. It really becomes something that you have participated in and that you generated, but in the end, you can step back and go, wow, I did that?
So if you're a control freak, it's probably not the best way to do it, but it's the best way definitely to get a quality production.
Yes, exactly. And there are so many more stories inside of a human being than you realize. And sometimes, and then the stories like, for example, Emma Lily, the way it started out, it was a certain idea that I had, which was just kickstarting this sort of theme. But now that we've done the staged reading, which is the first process, and we had an audience and I had feedback,
Sure.
and it was in a venue, a professional venue, I am going to definitely be rewriting and pursuing other festivals to do a workshop production. So.
Okay. So, I mean, do you feel like this was this is pretty well received, or is it just kind of in its
Well, I think it
initial
was
stages? Or
it was very well received. Now, this one in particular,
you want to tell me what it's about?
okay, well, the main log line, as they would say in movies, is love or money. Is that really a question?
Okay. Okay.
And so we have a team of characters and personalities set in the 50s in Portland.
Oh.
And Lily is a sort of a Las Vegas singer who was wooed to Portland, which at that time, historical fact is that Portland was a really hot jazz music location, and many lounges and whatnot, nightclubs brought people in from Las Vegas. So everything about Emma Lily has historical reference in Portland.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then Edward Sawyer, which it's going to switch now, and so I'm going to jump ahead, which is going to be Lily's son, is an individual, and he wants to be a drag queen.
Okay.
And so a series of events happen in the nightclub where Lily's singing and her son is sort of, helping her, but then she is going to be having a pregnancy. And so, anyway, so I don't want to tell the whole story.
Well, no.
Lily.
Just so I get a little bit of a sense.
But it's a nightclub scene,
Okay.
and so it has a historical reference in Portland. And of course, Darcel's and Roxy started Darcel's in the 50s, and so I did all of the historical reference to that location, which is still in Portland and very popular and very famous and lovely and wonderful creative individuals. And so although this play is all made up in my head and through a series of consulting with the director and other people and the readings, is going to evolve to be another play based in Portland. So also Fighter Girl was based in Portland. The opening scene is on Pioneer Courthouse Square. I'm kind of backing up here a little bit. But this is about a young girl who loses her dad in Afghanistan, and she thinks that if everyone, she holds a protest rally on Pioneer Courthouse Square, which we're all familiar with having happened, that opening scene, she thinks that if we were all playing guitars instead of with guns, her dad would still be alive. So she has to go through a journey. She ends up in Shanghai tunnels, and a long story short, you have to see the play. So this one is closer to a world premiere. But actually, Emma Lily is now, too, because a world workshop production, because it's funny, you do one play, you learn all the parts you don't have to do. It's like you get better with each play. So.
There's the learning curve.
Yeah, there's a learning curve.
Absolutely.
And also the interesting part is in the creative process. If, as a playwright, I have found that you start out, everything's really exciting. It's like going on an adventure, what I call it, or going on a lion hunt, and you're going into the jungle, into the unknown with this play.
Sure.
And then a challenge comes up or an obstacle comes up, and each time this obstacle or challenge comes up, you have to find out, how committed am I to this project? And literally, as it's going up, things can be falling apart.
Sure.
And it's just, no, I'm going to continue to be present to let this thing come forth. And so it's really exciting. It's always fresh. It's always new. I love it.